Hi, I'd like to tell you about a very typical testimonial that we hear in our clinic, and it comes from Kelly. Kelly came to our clinic after she'd gained 30 pounds of unexpected weight during perimenopause. She was struggling, in fact, battling with fatigue and didn't know what she should do next. She was putting her best foot forward and trying all of the solutions that she could. In fact, she just didn't know where to look or, in fact, where she was going wrong. Nothing seemed to be working. 12 short weeks after joining our clinic, Kelly had lost 17 pounds effortlessly, sustainably, consistently. She was absolutely thrilled. In fact, she couldn't believe it. She was laughing and she said, I feel like I've been eating more than I've ever eaten in my whole life, at least since I was 15. So in this video, I want to share with you what didn't work for Kelly in the past and why we changed it, and how that worked. And then I'll explain to you how you can have an entirely similar or even better experience. Before we dive in, I'd just like to introduce myself. My name is Rowan Sanderson. I'm a practitioner of functional diagnostic nutrition. I studied functional medicine with Chris Kresser over 10 years ago, and I'm the founder of the Hormone Balance Clinic. I've spent the last 10 years helping countless females navigate this tricksy labyrinth, which is perimenopause and menopause. Why? Well, because I feel like it's a mission to share the science which is coming into this field, which just isn't being shared with you by your primary care practitioner yet. It's also the reason we created our Hormone Renewal course and our Hormone Clarity bundle, so that people like you can get the resources they need to turn the dial on their health. So thanks for being here. It's an absolute pleasure to serve you. Let's introduce Kelly's normal world. What was Kelly's life like before we started working together? Well, she'd struggled with fatigue for a number of years. She had some nondescript gut issues, which were very difficult to put a finger on. Her sleep had been really impacted. And then suddenly, hey presto, almost overnight, in her own words, she had this explosion, also her own words, of unexplained weight gain. She went through a period of denial and thinking, my goodness, this can't be happening. Why is it happening to me? What have I done wrong? And of course, she hasn't done anything wrong. Nothing she tried, however, remedied any of her symptoms. And it only led to more frustration and more depletion in her energy. And as we all know, and I totally empathize with this, a lack of clarity around your health and where you're going is just not an easy place to be. It creates a lot of background stress. During Kelly's endeavors to remedy her symptoms, she tried low carb diet, going paleo, keto, HIIT, and finally the ultimate nemesis of perimenopause, intermittent fasting. Holy moly. Her tenacity for finding a solution is admirable and does her a lot of credit. I have compassion for the emotions that are caused by this health guessing game. It's completely understandable to think that what worked before in life in your 20s and 30s will work again, but perimenopause is a totally new landscape. You have a totally different hormone expression. So what used to work isn't going to work now or in the future, and that's a really important point. Calories in, calories out method just does you all a disservice. So why weren't her current methods working? And this is the important part. Many of the solutions which are touted on social media and you hear as health tools actually do not work in perimenopause for a single underlying reason, and that is they all contribute to elevating cortisol, which imbalances hormones even more. And in fact, we've got a whole Cortisol Masterclass which explains all of this. You can access it for free via the description. But the short of it is, the lifestyle and the diet approaches that she was using do not account for the changes in cortisol which is experienced in perimenopause. And in fact, they often make it significantly worse, which is why you often feel like you're rowing upstream. Most doctors are missing this. And I know that because last week alone, I spoke to over a dozen females who had zero guidance around their cortisol levels or the impact that has on progesterone and how that suppresses progesterone and creates a temporary estrogen dominance and weight gain. Over the past decades, I've had hundreds of these conversations, and understanding cortisol is critical because it's responsible for weight storage or triggering fat gain, known as adipogenesis. It's also very impactful on hormone balance, and it also, in excess, suppresses thyroid function, which means that your whole metabolism slows down. It also plays a really important role in your muscle mass, bones, connective tissues. It's called catabolic anabolic balance. Ultimately, unregulated, inappropriate cortisol will amplify perimenopausal symptoms and make weight loss attempts really impossible. The majority of tools that Kelly was using that have been suggested by friends or practitioners were actually making all this cortisol dysregulation significantly worse. Being hungry is stressful. Being overworked is stressful. Not having sleep is stressful. Being overstressed is stressful. And it's simply not good for your cortisol, your progesterone to estrogen, your thyroid, and of course it creates insulin resistance, which means your body doesn't clear the glucose and ends up storing more body fat. So, okay, let's talk about what we did to change Kelly's health landscape. Firstly, we got an accurate, detailed understanding of where her hormone levels were at, how her hormones were being processed by her body, which is also really impactful, and what her cortisol curve was for the day. And I'll give you a quick example because this is really revealing. A cortisol curve, if this is the number of units of cortisol and these are the hours, let's say you get up at 6 a.m. and you go to bed at 10 p.m. and this is approximately midday. Cortisol in females should rise gently so that you feel nice and awake, and it should top out here at midday and slowly come down when you come into bedtime. So, and I'll use a different color for this one, your melatonin can take over and you can fall into a deep restorative sleep. However, what we're seeing increasingly, and this is largely propagated by social media, it wasn't like this 10 years ago when I first started, is cortisol, instead of, and we'll keep this line here dotted so we've got a reference, instead of it coming up and being a beautiful hill throughout your day, what we're seeing is that people are going to bed hungry, they're waking up, doing intermittent fasting. They maybe go to the HIIT class, let's put that there, early morning, trying the hardest. They've still not had any fuel. The body's gone from being in fight or flight to really, we think we're in a war zone. Cortisol continues up somewhere like this until you've just simply produced all the cortisol you can during the day. Energy crashes, it comes down here, it might bump, flatline, and it goes like this. And because they haven't eaten enough here before bed, cortisol starts to rise, wakes you up in the middle of the night to tell you you're hungry and you need to eat to survive, and then crashes again. And we see this curve starting sometimes like this during the day as it's coming down from the night. The impact of this on all of your other hormones, and let's just recap this because it's really, really important to understand. And nobody is talking about it around bioidentical hormone replacement therapy. And this, if your hormones are a theatre, cortisol is the bad guy waiting in the wings, directing all the bad things that happen. So let's just call this hormone dominoes. And it starts with elevated cortisol. This elevated cortisol has a huge impact on insulin function. And then you develop insulin resistance. So your body can't clear the glucose. And then guess what? All of your cholesterols go up and your ApoB, and your doctor gets really worried about your heart health. And this insulin resistance creates some kind of ghrelin irregularity, which means you want to eat all of the time to feel better. This also, cortisol, decreases progesterone. And if we look at these together, what would have been estrogen, progesterone. When you have been subjected to excess cortisol for a really long time, what happens is this progesterone gets squashed. So suddenly you're in this temporary estrogen dominance, you're gaining weight, it's out of control. You feel really strange, your mood, you feel glued to the sofa, you can feel very emotional because you've got what's called unchecked proliferative estrogen. To try and counter this weight gain, you do everything that Kelly was doing, HIT, you start counting calories, you're really treating yourself badly, trying to treat yourself well, and it's actually making the whole thing worse. So let's go back to Kelly. How did we test her and find out about her cortisol? Well, we used a Dutch test. A Dutch test is dried urine for total comprehensive hormones. It's hands down the most insightful test when it comes to female hormones in the perimenopause and menopause space. In our experience, it reveals absolutely critical, essential information about your unique hormonal blueprint, and it gives you clear instructions and empowerment on how you to navigate it. Kelly's Dutch revealed an incredibly steep cortisol curve, like I drew earlier, and this is a common pattern. And we just see this indicates that there are huge metabolic problems being impacted by this excess cortisol, like all these dominoes. To remedy this, we supported her at critical points in the curve. And our goal with this is to bring Kelly into that golden renewal zone. Why is this our goal? Well, when you're in that zone, vibrant health just starts to occur naturally because your body doesn't feel like it's constantly in fight or flight. You feel safe, you feel nourished. We removed the elements which were creating this in her diet and lifestyle. We encouraged her to eat food and reassure her hypothalamus that she wasn't starving or in fight or flight. By eating more, she reassured her POMC neurons that she was being nourished. By adopting great sleep practices and focusing on that, she naturally recovered better, lowered the cortisol, and spiked her own natural human growth hormone. And we showed her some supplements that she could take to encourage that. Instead of super intense cardio and HIIT, she went out for long walks in nature with a dog and her partner, with whom she's cultivated a brand new connection. She started to lift some moderate weights, started to improve her body composition, felt lean and stronger than she's ever done before. So that 17 pounds that Kelly lost is in fact much more weight. It's probably closer to 25, 27 pounds because it doesn't take account of the lean muscle she put on. This, combined with everything she threw herself into in our community, which is part of the course, coming to the yoga, the movement, the breathing, is just game changing. Oh, I didn't mention consistent energy, decrease in brain fog, better skin, lower inflammation, a hair growing thicker, her skin's looking better. She said a notable reduction in wrinkles, nails are growing quicker than she can cut them, and she has refound her zest for life. This lady is renewed, literally. Currently in a camper van, traveling around Europe with her husband, enjoying life with their doggos. I love hearing this from our clients. This could be you. This isn't magic. It works every time if you follow the path we give you. Inevitably, people phone up the clinic and say, I don't know what you've done, but suddenly my sleep's improved and my libido's coming back and I'm losing all of the weight, but I'm doing less exercise. I feel like I'm just making time for myself. I'm connecting with my friends. I've got more creative space. This in itself is a huge load out of your stress bucket because you're starting to get the results you deserve. And we see this time and time and time again. And it's what happened to Kelly, and it's what can happen to you. The important takeaway that I want to share with you is that reclaiming a health was not a case of taking a special pill or a quick biohack. And it wasn't just a single thing. It was a combination of things done in a specific sequence based on her unique hormonal blueprint. Before you do this, you need that. You need your route map. You need to know where you are so you can get to where you want to go. So instead of a quick fix, we just took a comprehensive, holistic, strategic approach that looked to improve the major levers behind her symptoms, all of which improved her long-term vibrant health. All of the longevity markers, cortisol, inflammation, intestinal permeability have to be part of your plan if you want to succeed. I can't encourage you enough to just start in one place with adequate, insightful testing. You cannot guess this. Hormones are incredibly important messengers. They're not just sex hormones, they're longevity molecules. Understanding where you are now gives you clarity, and that's an amazing gift to give yourself. Yes, I would like to remind you that stories like Kelly's are incredible and thankfully becoming more common. We have countless other stories like them, and we're going to continue sharing them with you. Believe me, you can achieve the health you want. Our goal at the clinic is to offer guidance and support to as many females to get them through this hormonal labyrinth. Nothing gives our team more joy and purpose in the world than hearing case stories like Kelly's. If you would like to check out our services, please do so via the links below. At least book a discovery call and find out how we can help you get what you want rather than you struggling alone. You don't need to do this alone. We've done it for over a decade.